What's up, everybody? Back at it again with another math video. This time I'm going to be talking about exponents. This will be a refresher for those of you who already know about this, and for those of you who are learning exponents or looking for extra help, you came to the right spot because I'm going to try to break this down and make it as simple as possible. And we got a happy face because we're hoping all having a good day. So let's get into it. The basics of an exponent. So an exponent is used to show repeated multiplication. That operation is called exponentiation. It's just like addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, exponentiation. That's all this is. Exponents are very useful when graphing. That's going to be where you're going to spend most of your time with exponents. It's going to be talking about how they're used in graphing, exponential functions, stuff like that. Stock market, just all kinds of graphs. They're all going to use exponents. Make sure not to confuse this with simple multiplication. That's the number one mistake I see when I'm helping other kids with exponents. It's they'll confuse it and they'll use multiplication when in reality they should be using exponentiation. So let's get into it. So this is an exponent, y to the n power. It means that y is multiplied by itself n times. So if we have y to the second power, it means that y is multiplied by itself 2 times. This is the same thing as saying y squared. It means the same thing. You'll hear a lot of people say, y squared. Well, if they say y squared, they just mean y with an exponent of 2. And remember, that just means y times y. Y with an exponent of 3 means y times y times y, right? Y is multiplied by itself 3 times. It's the same thing if you say y cubed. This is another thing people say, y cubed just means y to the third power. And if you have y to the fourth power, it's just y times y times y times y. You have y multiplied by itself 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And once you get past 3, there is not necessarily a word for how you would just say it quickly. So you would just say y to the fourth. And if there was a 5 right here, you'd say y to the fifth. And if there was a 7, there'd be y to the seventh. If there was a 29, it would be y to the 29th. And that would be the same as y with a little 29. So that's just how you say it over here. What you're actually doing is over here. So the easiest way to learn exponents is just to do a lot of them. So that's what we're going to try to do. I'm just going to pump out some examples right here. We got 2 to the third power, or 2 cubed, as we like to say. And that's just going to be 2 multiplied by itself 3 times. So we have 2 times 2 times 2. Now 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2, that equals 8. Now, if you were to confuse this with multiplication, like I see a lot of students do, they would say, oh, this is 2 times 3. That's 6. But that answer is not 6. It's 2 multiplied by itself 3 times. It's not 2 times 3. So the answer is 8, but some students will put 6 because they'll think it's 2 times 3. So make sure not to get that confused. Another one, we got 4 to the second power, or 4 squared. That's just 4 multiplied by itself 2 times. 4 times 4 equals 16. We should all know that one. We got 5 to the fourth power. That's just 5 multiplied by itself 4 times. So 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 equals 625. So this is another one where you can see how you get into trouble if you think this is multiplication. So a lot of students will say, oh, it's just 5 times 4. The answer is 20. No, the answer is not 20. The answer is 625. Way off. 625 is way bigger. It's because you can't confuse these. 5 to the fourth power is way different than 5 times 4. So just be sure you keep that straight. Last, we got 1 to the third power. 1 multiplied by itself 3 times. The answer is 1. And this is kind of a funny little example. If you have 1 as the base of your exponent, and then any number that you're multiplying or you're raising 1 to the power by, the answer is just going to be 1. And that's going to make sense, right? We know 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. I mean, it could go on forever. It could be 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 forever. And it's just going to be 1. So it could be 1 to the 150th power, and the answer is just going to be 1. So just remember, if you have a 1 down here, any number up here, the answer is just going to be 1. And that's really it, guys. You can do a lot more examples, and that's just going to be the way that you're going to get better at it. You're going to be able to do this faster. It's just by doing example after example. I only put 4 up here. You can go and make it your own up. It's not too complicated. You put a number down here, a number up here, and then you can check yourself with a calculator. So I'm going to tell you guys about the exceptions and shortcuts. So our first rule, the zero power rule. Any number besides 0 when raised to the power of 0 equals 1. So if we have 5 to the 0 power, the answer is going to be 1. If we have 3 to the 0 power, the answer is going to be 1. If we have 218,632,485 to the 0 power, the answer is going to be 1. And this is the 0 power rule. If you have any number down here and you have a 0 as an exponent, your answer is just going to be 1. Now this right here, I have this because 0 to the 0 power does not exist. We don't know what that number is. And this will make way more sense once you get into pre-calculus and then calculus, but on a graph, this is going to be really close to infinity, and we don't have a number that can represent this. So for all intents and purposes, 0 to the 0 power does not exist. But any other number to the 0 power, your answer is going to be 1. Next, the 1 power rule. Any number when raised to the power of 1 equals itself. So if we have 9 to the first power, it equals 9. If we have 7 to the first power, it equals 7. And if we have 72,635 to the first power, it's going to equal itself and be 72,635. So it's super, super straightforward. Anything to the power of 1 equals itself. Anything to the power of 0, right? Anything to the power of 0 is going to equal 1. So just make sure not to get those confused. Now a shortcut. So a lot of teachers will put one of these on a test to try to trip their students up. So just be on the lookout for it. If 10 is being raised to an n power, put a 1 followed by n number of zeros, and that'll be your answer. And this will make more sense once you see it. So like 10 squared, you're going to put a 1 followed by 2 zeros. If you have 10 to the 5th, you're going to put a 1 followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, and that's your answer. If you have 10 to the 8th, it's just a 1 followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 zeros. So just remember, the shortcut is with a 10. If you have a 10 as your base in your exponent, and it's being raised to some power, this is just how many, the power is just going to be how many zeros is following that 1. So if it's 10 to the 19th, it's going to be a 1 followed by 19 zeros. So just remember that. Of course, you always can just punch it into a calculator and it'll spit out these same numbers, but this is just a handy dandy shortcut. And that's going to be it for exponents. Leave anything in the comments if you have a specific exponent you're confused about. In the future, I'll go over if you have a negative exponent, but that'll be another video. But otherwise, the only thing you can really do to get better at this is do a lot of examples and a lot of practice. But that's just the basics of exponents. I hope you guys are still doing well in these times of crisis. I'm going to keep making these videos. I'm going to take a short break. I don't think I'm going to make another video for about 10 days or so. I got my AP exams coming up for high school, and I got to study for those and make sure I knock those out of the park. So I'm going to take a little break, and then I'll keep posting math videos. Again, if you have any topic or any question you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments. And I hope you all are doing well. Adios.